Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Oh My Gosh, You're Glowing podcast. My name is Lindsey Walker. I am your host, and we are back for another juicy, packed episode. And this time, I am really feeling the glow in my body, in my life, and all the way from inside out because I just got off one of the most magical weekends possible with one of my friends, Megan Mercer of Destination Reverie. If you don't know who she is, if you haven't heard of her, now is the time to go find her before she blows up because she just led the most incredible weekend for the most incredible people I have ever experienced. And there are some jam-packed juicy stories from that weekend, and I had to take yesterday to integrate. I've been back for 2 days from the weekend, from the experience, her frequency 2.0, and I just needed a day to integrate. I almost recorded this yesterday, but I was like, "You know what? I'm tired." Like, it finally hit me with, like, not getting a whole lot of sleep, which, like, no shade, it was all good. Um, but I was like, I need to record this when I'm still like in the energy as much as I can. And so I'm doing it. I'm recording it now so we can really still tap into that energy of the weekend so I can share all my takeaways and biggest lessons with you all because there was some incredible moments that cannot go by the wayside and cannot be missed. I am so freaking excited to get into these with you all. But first, there has been something else on my mind, on my heart that I really want to bring forward and share that is really important. And it kind of goes along with part of the story as to how I got to the Frequency 2.0 event, but we'll get into that in a moment. So, I'm sure many of you are feeling the heaviness of the world, especially if you're in the US, but not just the US, all over the world. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of transitions going on. There's been just a lot of heavy events going on. And it doesn't even matter what the event has been, but I'm just feeling everyone's emotions. I'm feeling the conflict. I'm feeling the heaviness of different sides. And it's this fighting, it's this war energy that's going on, even if it's not a war necessarily. And I was really surprised last week, especially on social media, some of the things I saw from some people that were just sparking more of that division energy, more, and it doesn't even matter who they were, but it was people, that maybe pride themselves on being this light for a community, and then we're creating more of a divisive space. And specifically right now, I am referring to the US election. But I'm not even talking about sides. We're not here to talk about sides. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if you voted, if you didn't vote, this side, that side. That's not what we're here to talk about because one of the things that came up this past weekend and something that I was already feeling is that system, those systems that are in this matrix basically are used to divide us. And I'm watching it divide people more and more, no matter how awakened, how spiritual they say they are. And these things are still being a divisive tool for the powers that be, the government, the media, to divide us or think that they're dividing us, make us think that we're being more and more divided in our thinking, in our beliefs, and in our life. And it's just creating more of this conflict energy. So, what I've been really feeling is leaning more into really taking a zoom out, like take this opportunity to zoom out in however you are feeling, whether you feel like you are on a side, whether you don't resonate with any of it at all, and really allow yourself to see the bigger picture without the media, without the government, without these other systems in place, because there is actually an opportunity for us to all come together in so much love and not listening to the divisiveness that they want us to fall for. Because that's really what this is. Everyone on either side has a really good heart and a good message and a good drive. Well, okay, not everyone, but most people who have good intentions do. And they're both fighting for things that matter. But when it is this fighting energy, and when we continue this fighting energy of sides, and we continue this energy of fighting and war, that's what creates the frequency and the energy in our lives and in our world, and it continues to perpetuate. And I really didn't want to talk about this. I really didn't even want to bring it up, but I saw it from people that I thought I would never see it from. I saw it from people who consider themselves awakened. I saw it from people who consider themselves conscious, and yet they're still falling for the sides. And I was shocked. And it just felt like this call to bring in a more of an understanding for different people's beliefs, different people's viewpoints on things, and understand that we don't have to agree on the exact same thing, but we also don't have to be divisive. We can also agree that you don't want to participate in these systems, and that's fine too. But this continuous divisive energy, this continuous, if you're on that side, I never want to be your friend. If you're on that side, I don't want to talk to you anymore. If you're on that side, you're this whole list of name calling that the media has just given you, and you're just regurgitating it. That energy is what is continuously creating this toxic energy in our world. And I saw it so clearly this past week, and I just wanted to bring it forward. So if you've been feeling this as well, if you've been feeling the heaviness, or if you maybe feel like you've gotten sucked into the divisiveness, I want you to take this opportunity to zoom out. Look at your space, look at your world from a new lens, and really see the opportunity for love and coming together in oneness. And I know that, maybe you think I sound corny, or maybe you think, oh my gosh, you're just like one of those other weird spiritual people talking about like oneness and all coming together. But truly, that is the path forward. This continuous war, this continuous fighting, this continuous sides is what will continue to create this energy in our world, in our environment. And look at how you're creating that in your life too, even with your body, with other people. Are you splitting sides? Are you always saying it has to be this or that? Is where can you bring an opportunity for, I have a belief, you have a belief. We can have different beliefs, we can have disagreements, but we don't have to be completely split up and have complete sides. Because this total name calling, I mean, it's like adults bullying each other at this point. And I'd like never want to be the person that talks about this, but I've seen it so much, and it came up this weekend too, of exactly this energy that I was seeing of the media painting a picture that isn't even real. It's not even true. And yet people are regurgitating it and following it and supporting it. And it's creating so much friction. And I saw basically like high school bullying energy online. Like, what is this? So, this is my invitation for you to really zoom out and look at the energy that you're bringing to your life. And there's no need to make anyone bad or wrong for past things that were said, because this is your opportunity to move forward. And even if you've been seeing it, know that you're not alone. Know that you're not the only one feeling the heaviness. There's all kinds of heaviness. It doesn't matter where it's been coming from. There's heaviness all over the world. But if you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance you are some form of a light worker, a healer, a guide, someone that is meant to bring light to this planet and light to your world. So where can you actually bring more of that oneness, more of that light, and allow people to have different opinions and beliefs and thoughts without creating this war fighting divisive energy? So that's my invitation for you today, for us to really create more of a loving whole energy, because that is what is going to create the world that we all really desire. Seeing other people as whatever the media has said that other side is, and it's on both sides, it's everywhere. I mean, there's no side that's clean. There's no side that, well, this is better than this. No, there's messed up things in both. So this isn't about sides. This isn't about who's fighting for what. The fact that we're fighting is the problem. So this is your opportunity to really look at, what energy have you been leading from? And is there an opportunity to bring more of that oneness and acceptance for others who maybe don't have the same viewpoint as you into your life so that we can stop creating this friction, this fighting, this war, divisive energy in all aspects of your life? And this is actually, I really wanted to avoid being around people right after the election because I knew whichever way it was going to go, someone was going to be upset. Something was just not going to feel right. And I didn't realize how heavy it was going to be. But I knew I was like, let me just stay in my home and like away from everybody after this because I just didn't want to like play the game. I was like, I'm not here for this. I'm not here for the fighting. I'm not here for the sides. I don't want to fuel that fire. And so actually this event that I was just telling you about, part of it, I saw that it was right after the election and it was going to be really close to my dental cavitation procedure, which is an episode coming up. I promise it's coming soon. I just haven't sat down and recorded it yet. But I used those excuses to keep me away from this event. And I knew it was going to be powerful. Megan is a beautiful, bright light. And I knew anything that she created was going to be super magical. But I used all of these ridiculous, tangible things to logic my way out of having any desire to go. And so but I was like, you know what? People need to be at this event. People need to be there. This is going to be incredible. And so I was super excited to share her work with my community as well, because I wanted other people to be in this room with her. Well, funny enough, I was sharing like truly out of the just like utmost enjoyment and gratitude for sharing her work. And she happened to be doing a giveaway. And I knew it was going on. Of course, I was like, that would be awesome if I won. But, I just really want other people to get out there and see her and find her. And it's been really fun to share my friends' work, to share other women's work. I used to not be the person that did that. I used to be the person that kind of was hesitant to share other women. And that's more of that masculine patriarchy type of vibe where there's always competition, and more of that feminine collaboration is the new way of being if you're a woman who really wants to lean into their feminine way of being, of doing business, of just cultivating deeper friendships, really. I think that cattiness, that competition is like what created all the fighting and shit in high school anyways. So I was actually like really, really excited and getting into like sharing her work and sharing her posts and sharing her stuff. And I was driving up to Marble Falls to get my cavitation surgery that night with my mom, and I was telling her all about it. And then I get to the hotel for the place where we're staying that night before the surgery. Literally, this is like 9 o'clock at night. My surgery is at like 7 a.m. the next morning. And I happened to go on Instagram and see that she tagged me on something. And it was like, you won the giveaway. I was like, what? No freaking way. It was the coolest thing because it was like something that I think I was subconsciously manifesting, but it wasn't this like attachment. You know, when you're like manifesting something and you really, really want something and you feel so freaking attached, you're like, if I don't get this thing, my life is over. You know that feeling? This was not that. I was like, that would be awesome. But I don't feel like I have the time. I don't feel like this is the right time. I don't want to go anywhere at the beginning of November. I just want to like hide away. And I won. It was so crazy. Like still, it was wild. I've never won anything like that. Like usually I'm the person that does not win. But I don't want to say that. So cancel, clear, delete. I am the person who wins. But previously I am usually not. But I think I was really subconsciously manifesting it. So literally 2 weeks away, she's like, hey, you won a spot. And I was like, shoot, okay, I'm going to Oregon. Let's go. So that was how the universe was like, hey, you need to go. I know you're going to logic your way out of going to this event, but you need to go. And I was also saying I've been to a bunch of events this year. I don't need to go to another one. I've been traveling a lot, we're traveling for Thanksgiving. I'm just going to stay here. I can logic my way in or out of anything. And remember that too. You can and you will logic your way in or out of anything. And I was clearly not listening to my intuition. I just set that aside. But know that if you are pushing something away and you're like, oh, no, I've, built this entire list of why I should or shouldn't go. Yeah, you can do that. Your mind will give you all kinds of reasons why you should or should not do something. You can always do that. But is that actually your intuition? It might not be. So always check yourself on those. I'm guilty of it too, clearly. Luckily, the universe had my back and God was like, nope, you need to be there. Like, you're going. And as soon as I knew I was going to be in the room and she's like, do you want to upgrade to VIP? And I was like, well, shoot, if I'm going to be there, absolutely. Like, I am VIP energy. If we're going to be there, we're going all in, right? And I'm so freaking glad I did. So, this has been a theme this year. I plan trips like a week or two out and like book these events and have pretty much zero plans of going until they're about to happen and I'm like booking a flight. Which, if you know me, I'm not usually, until this year, I'm not usually this spontaneous of a person. Like, I usually like to have a big plan of like where we're going and when it's happening and just making sure all the ducks are in the row. Well, I've had some lessons this year and my ducks have been getting in a row quite fast. 1 to 2 weeks out has been kind of the vibe, but it couldn't have gone better. It was so freaking fun, just absolutely amazing. So that's where I was this past weekend in Oregon, won this retreat, went on her VIP experience, and I had zero expectations. I knew very, very little about what was going on. Like, I didn't even really I'm sure she's going to be like, "Really?" I didn't really read the sales pages or like her posts or anything because I could just feel the frequency of it. I just knew the vibes were going to be good. I knew her vibes are always good. And I'm like the person who does not read sales pages. I never read sales pages for anything. It's either like I'm an in or an out. And so I didn't really know what it was. I was like, she's been probably explaining it for weeks and I just wasn't paying attention. But I just knew it was going to be a good vibe. I had no idea what was going on. I looked at the weather and packed relatively accordingly and just went for it. Really leaned into, meeting new people, which can be sometimes uncomfortable for me. I feel like I'm still kind of healing that sisterhood wound. Maybe it's some of a witch wound, but collaboration with women and making new friends on things, on events like this. In the past, I have gotten really burned by women, and that has like led me to need to really heal this ability for me to feel safety in meeting other women and being around other women. And it's been really nice to be around women who want to collaborate with you, who want to lift you up, who actually want to see you grow and thrive and succeed, because that's what I want for them. But people in the past have not always wanted that for me. So she was so, so kind and allowed a few of us to stay in her home. It was like literally the best girls' night sleepover for an entire weekend. It was the best. I'm so glad I took her up on that offer and even picked someone up new from the airport that I had never met and drove her 3 hours with us. We got to know each other real well and drove 3 hours to the town where the event was being held at. And so, yeah, I had no expectations. Obviously, I knew we would probably do some breath work because I actually met Megan at my breathwork facilitator training back in March. She was already certified. She was there to help, but me and my mom were there getting certified. And I always just had a pull towards her. Even since I met her, there was just something I really vibed with. And so I would always intentionally reach out to her when I felt called to. And I'm really glad that I listened to that energy, that frequency, that vibration for me having that attraction towards her, because I could just feel like there was something there. There was something that I wanted to learn from her. I just wanted to be around her and in her energy. And now I know why. Like, there's been so much kind of uncovered. She is such a beautiful person, and it's been so fun to have so many experiences with her as a really good friend. And I was so excited to go support her in her retreat, her event, and be there for the very first one. So I think part of me was like, my ego kind of like kept me away from actually signing up for myself. And it was like, not that didn't want to be there. I just had talked my way out of it. So it's okay. The universe remedied the situation. All was well. But this ended up being a weekend of letting go, releasing, and just calling in the next version, new desires. And really, my biggest words from the weekend were anchoring, embodying, grounded, and presence, and really living with intention, but also fun. And I learned from my other new friend, Tiff, how much fun you can actually have in your life because I'm not sure I've been having all that much fun sometimes, but not nearly as much as I should. And it was so interesting because so many of the practices that she guided us through, it was like this experiential weekend. There was like a little bit of teaching here and there, but it was truly just going through so many experiences, which was the best part. And really connecting with the other women there and getting to know them on a much deeper level. It's always fun to go into a retreat on the first day and then come out the last day. Like the first day, everyone's kind of like looking around like, okay, like sizing people up, not sizing them up, but just kind of like, all right, who are you? And no one knows anyone's story. No one knows anyone. Maybe a few people do. And then by the last day, everyone is just like best friends, is like giving each other hugs, saying, I love you. And just, it was so wild. It happened in 2.5 days, really. But that's how you know someone cultivated such a deep connection, a deep container for connection to be able to do that. You don't get that if it's not a really safe, sacred space. And the fact that Megan was able to create that for us was absolutely huge. So, a lot of the practices we did were things like journaling, meditation, breath work. She talked about lymph drainage. She was teaching us some EFT tapping. Trying to remember some of the other things. It was a lot. It was like jam-packed, completely filled, some anger, rage practices. And I would say I've been exposed to everything. And some of these things I even do or teach my own clients. But what I had been feeling was very disconnected, not very embodied, and ungrounded from my own practices. And what this weekend really taught me is that there was an identity shift I needed to make. Not only do I do these things, like, sure, yeah, I meditate, I do breath work, I journal, I do all these things, but I never shifted my identity to become the person that does this on a daily basis. I never shifted my identity to say, I'm someone that has a morning routine. I'm someone that meditates daily. I'm someone that has a consistent breathwork practice. I would do them, but they never got anchored into my body in this really embodied way. They were never grounded. I was never grounded in these practices. And I was feeling that. I was feeling that disconnection, but I wasn't figuring out how to remedy that. I think it was just growing further and further away. And so something about being in that room this weekend with all the women and everything that I did release really brought me back and kept me grounded and created that presence. I have never been so present in a weekend. I did not look at my phone. I like to take a few pictures. I barely talked to my husband. I just tossed that phone aside and didn't look back. And I've been so connected and present and grounded in myself since the weekend that I'm like, I don't want to go back to that disconnected, floating feeling that I was having beforehand. So sometimes going to these events, I will say every single in-person event I've gone to, I feel like has totally transformed and changed my life. Every single one. I can literally go back to every single one and tell you what that event did for me in my life. And this one really brought groundedness and presence and intention back into my life because I wasn't. And sometimes, specifically with this event, part of the reasons I talked myself out of it was like, oh, I probably already know all these things. Sure, I knew them, but sometimes you need to have that activated in you to ignite that new identity shift in you, to not just know them, but to embody and do them on a consistent basis. And that's what I really learned from this is if you're being called towards something, even if you feel like, oh, I've done that before, oh, I already know that. If you're being called to it, there's something else there for you. It's the experience that's baked in that is really calling to your attention. It doesn't matter what you're going to do there because every single experience, especially in-person ones, will change your life. I suppose only if you are all in. But I'm the person, if I go to an in-person event, I'll be really uncomfortable. But at some point, the ice will break and I'll be all in and I'll allow it to be life-changing. So prioritize in-person events 100%, but prioritize them with people who you really resonate with and know that they will lift you up on your path to success. So, like I had mentioned, I did this dental cavitation surgery to clean out my wisdom teeth. We're going to get in more into that in a different episode, but why this is really important to bring up when we're talking about this weekend is because when we did a breathwork session, the breathwork that I teach, and it was crazy because I've never done it this close to people. We were all kind of sitting in the semicircle, and she was just rolling with the vibes of the group, which I loved. She definitely had plans, but made changes along the way, just based off of how the group was vibing together. And we were all just laying on a bunch of like pillows and blankets in this little semicircle. And she was just like, okay, we're just going to like lay down and get started. I've never done breath work next to people that closely. Like I was literally, my legs were sandwiched between people. I think there was maybe like 3 inches from my head to the next person. And I was so uncomfortable. Even my stomach was like in pain, like right beforehand. I was like, oh, really do not feel good. Like it was like intestinal discomfort, like something all of a sudden came up. I was like, I really don't want to do this right now. I'm like not feeling well, but I was like, okay, well, I just gonna lay down and breathe, guys. Like my level of discomfort went through the fucking roof and I wanted to like run. And what I really learned in that session was that I was really scared to not only be seen, because I've been working through a lot of that, and I didn't feel so much fear of being seen, but it started to become more of a fear of being heard, because I am someone that releases a lot of emotions during breath work. For whatever reason, that form of breath work allows me to release every effing emotion I have ever felt in life or did not feel in life and stuck deep down in my body. I truly have yet to find anything else that allows me to do it quite like that, which is why I still do it. And we had laid down, she's like guiding us in. We haven't even started breathing. And I'm like already tearing up. I was like, oh no, I just like knew it was coming. I just like felt this bubbling of energy, just wanting to explode. And I thought we were going to use headphones and that made me feel safe. And then when we weren't and we were like 2 inches away from each other, I was like, oh, awesome. This is really great. This is like the most uncomfortable scenario you could have been in. Awesome. Luckily, it was with a bunch of amazing women, but this was just my own fears and discomfort. And I was holding back during the session. And I think she noticed because she came over and held me and, coached me through it so that I was able to release a lot more. And it was just a really big lesson in me allowing myself to not only be seen, but be heard by other people in not just me talking, but me expressing and feeling emotions as well. And during my session, I actually felt, because I've worked through a lot of shit. But I just recently got this cavitation surgery. And it was like the second breathwork practice I've done since that surgery because I had to lay off of it for a little bit. And it was as if them cleaning out all those toxins in my wisdom teeth sites released this energy that had been stuck in these spots and just pent up for the last 14 years in my mouth. And this breathwork experience was allowing myself to release the floodgates for the rest of it. And it was it was my jaw and like near the sites were vibrating. I could feel them the whole time. And it was mainly on the left side. Now I had 2 on the left side, 1 on the right, but it was mainly the left side. There was a lot about receiving. There was a lot coming up about just all that energy that had been stirred up and finally let go and finally let out that this session was really tapping into. And I did still feel like I held back a little bit. I released a lot. I think people are like, wait, you had more? Because that was already a lot. But luckily, there was another exercise, another experience later in the day that allowed me to release some more. So like I said, I did the VIP experience with her, which any type of VIP, like it is just a vibe. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You step into that VIP experience and it's a different vibe than the regular room. Not that the regular room was bad, but if you are that VIP person, if you are that VIP woman that wants to be in that energy, it doesn't matter what the fuck you're doing, go. Because there's always something massive. That's what I've experienced. And I have yet to do anything where I have not done VIP, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. If there's a VIP option, I've done it every single time. No regrets. Like if there's a VIP, I will for sure. I will be there. Because I know there's always something that one level up, no matter what you get from it. It's an identity shift. Like I was talking about the identity of having a morning routine, having a daily routine, having a meditation practice, that VIP energy, that is an identity shift. And that's the identity that I want personally. So if that's you too, highly recommend any VIP. I never even ask questions. I don't even care what we're doing. I'll just be there. So I definitely was given another opportunity to let some more stuff go. Luckily, that afternoon in the VIP, we went to this absolutely amazing, beautiful property out in the wilderness, out in the forest of Oregon. It was so, so pretty, absolutely beautiful. And it was funny because all of us doing VIP, we rode out in a limo, but we had to take all our stuff for the entire day. So we're there with like all these bags and everything. And we get to the spot and Megan's like, okay, are you guys ready? And we're like, what are we doing? She's like, yeah, we're cold plunging. And I was like, oh shit. I did not bring a swimsuit. I mean, I did, but it was back at the house. I thought we were cold plunging the next day, which there was just, I received the information, but then I heard from other people. Here's another mistake. I received the information that we were doing cold plunge that day on Saturday from her. But then I heard other people talk about a cold plunge on Sunday. So I was like, oh, they must have moved it. And I just assumed by listening to other people, mistake number one. And I was like, oh, I don't need it. We're fine. If I would have just listened to the regular instructions, I would have had it. But it's okay because there was a lesson there. And so 3 of us actually had forgotten our swimsuit. I think there was like seven of us. And we're like, oh shit, like we don't have a swimsuit. Like I brought clothes for dinner. Oh, I had 3 pairs of shoes. Yeah. I had 3 pairs of shoes with me out in the wilderness and no swimsuit. So I was like, well, I'm prepared for 3 different types of shoe events, but all I got is my clothes. So we like walked up and, sat down. I'm sitting there thinking, and I could just feel like it was going to be really powerful. I was like, man, I really don't want to miss out on this. I really wanted to participate and be here for it. And I was just kind of bummed. And I just started to think, I was like, I mean, I have underwear on. We could just use that and it'll be fine. So in that moment, I just made the decision. I got myself in this room. I got myself in this VIP experience. Am I really going to waste it by just sitting here and watching other people have this experience? And because my dumbass listened to someone else instead of the actual instructions, not bring what I was supposed to have, and I'm just going to bail? Like, really? Am I going to let that happen? No is the answer. I did not let that happen. And sure enough, I cold plunged in my underwear, and I don't really wear bras anymore. So I had like a camisole with some cakes on, if you know what those are. They're like high quality nipple covers, right? Okay, if you haven't figured it out, there is no TMI in my world. I will just tell you all the things, everything. And so yeah, I cold plunged in my underwear, camisole, some cakes, and my thong. So that was the experience. And as I was getting into the cold plunge, which by the way, 2 other people did it too. All 3 of us were like, fuck it. We're not going to miss out on this. We're cold plunging in our underwear. Just like, who cares? It's a bunch of women out in the wilderness. Like, we're going for it. And as I was getting in the cold plunge to start this magical journey, I said something to Megan. I was like, I just feel like this was supposed to happen. I love to be overly prepared, especially with things. If you've seen me at breathwork events, I bring like 500 things. I'm very overly prepared, but I like that feeling of preparedness. I feel like it keeps me safe, which is why I had 3 pairs of shoes. I was like, I don't know which pair of shoes I'm going to want or need out in the wilderness. So let me bring all of them, which I also forgot some shoes. So the shoe thing was a big thing. And so I told her, I was like, I feel like this was just supposed to happen. I'm meant to learn to let go of physical items, physical things, and not have those make me feel safe. And she was like, oh, that's so interesting. And that's truly what it felt like, because that was an opportunity for me to use my surroundings, use what I had, and still choose the experience that was for me. It was obviously uncomfortable. Who the hell wants to cold plunge? It's not like a fun activity. There was a transformation on the other side. And it was, yes, it's already uncomfortable in your swimsuit, but for me, doing it in my underwear is like 10 times more uncomfortable. And that was the experience that I created for myself. And it was just looking back on it and reflecting on it, I just wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Like, who else can say they cold plunged in the woods in their underwear? 3 other women who were on that retreat. And then when I was in there, so the only other cold plunge I've done was at breathwork training in March, and it was a fucking disaster. I had a panic attack, was like severe anxiety, couldn't breathe. It was fucking nightmare. I think it was my first time ever cold plunging, and I hated it. It was 3 minutes and I couldn't get out of there fast enough. So I was not exactly excited. I don't like cold water. I'm more of a sauna girl, but obviously there's an experience in it. And Megan held such great space for us. And it was just like this very calming energy in the woods, in nature, with all these other beautiful women. And I allowed myself to release a lot. It actually was a little bit more emotional than I thought it was going to be. I think that there was still stuff from the breath work that I didn't let go that came out in the cold plunge. She kind of said that emotions could come out, but I was like, really? Are you sure? And they did, but it was so needed. And at some point they asked me how long, like, did I have a goal for how long I wanted to stay in there? And I said, no, like I hadn't really thought about it. I was just thinking about getting in the cold water. Okay. I thought there was like a certain time, I don't cold plunge. I don't know what's going on. And then as I was sitting there, I decided, you know what? I am going to sit in here until I don't want to run away from this cold water anymore. That it has become something uncomfortable that I am just done with experiencing, but not wanting to get out and run away. And I'm so happy I decided that, because it allowed me again to practice that presence. I thought about it and I was like, I want to remember being in here. I want to remember the feelings. I want to remember the sensations. I don't want to detach and disassociate from my experience, which when it is a discomfort, when it is an experience that is uncomfortable for me, I do tend to detach. And then it's actually hard for me to remember it because I wasn't really there. I didn't keep myself present and grounded. So that's how I decided how long I was going to stay in there, which ended up being a full 9 minutes, which apparently is a long time. I don't recommend a 9-minute cold plunge. In fact, I ended up doing 2 days in a row of 9-minute cold plunges. I seriously do not recommend that. And I'll get into that in a minute. But the 9 minutes, I think that very first time were needed. That was my intuition. That was very intuitively led. Most people would probably say it's stupid, but you know what? I still have all my fingers and toes and I'm fine. So it's all good. And it was just a really good learning experience. It was good for me to have that moment of presence, have that moment of discomfort, but also just sit in it until I didn't want to run away anymore. And I certainly felt a ton of tingling in my hands, but it was a different tingling. It felt like an activated kind of tingling. So that was super interesting. And yeah, finally got out. Apparently, someone told me later my lips were purple. I was like, oh, that's lovely. I'm glad there wasn't a mirror. But it's fine. I survived, got into a hot tub a few minutes later, and warmed myself back up. But it was such a good experience for me to do a hard thing like that I really didn't want to do, and in such an uncomfortable scenario, that it just allowed me to grow myself so much more. And I've done a lot of uncomfortable things in the last few months. I've grown a lot. I've grown my space to hold more. To this whole retreat was all about the nervous system. And so I really felt like my nervous system is able to hold so much more than it was in the past. And that was really telling for me that that's been true, which was cool to see. So I kind of mentioned the next day, I did another cold plunge. And this one was, I mean, it was optional. They were all optional. And I think I was just in that state of like, yeah, I did it yesterday. Like, I'm going to do it again. It's here for me. I was like so into the cold plunge the day before. I was like looking them up on the internet of like seeing which ones I could purchase like a crazy person. So I got in there the next day in a different one and ended up staying in it again for another 9 minutes. Not exactly planned. I thought it was going to be like 3 to 5. And then something told me, like, no, just stay in longer. This one was a little stupid. This one, I totally should have gotten out earlier, but I let myself almost compete against myself because I was like, oh, yesterday I did 9 minutes. I got to do the same or better today. No, no, you don't. The first one was very intuitively led. The second one was stupid. And I definitely felt my fingers and toes were going to freeze off. And someone told me later, they were like, yeah, it was kind of long. I was like, well, I didn't know. And after that experience, I ended up going into the sauna at this country club with my jacket and clothes on, like this puffy teddy jacket and pants and a sweater with hot tea in a sauna that was on to warm myself back up. So I was having a little trouble getting warm again, and my lips were purple again, and I couldn't feel my toes. So the first one was intuitive, the second one was stupid. But I learned something from each. I learned that your body does have limits and you need to listen to them when your fucking alarm bells are going off. And when it is intuitively led, you're going to know it's going to feel different. So cold plunge taught me a lot this weekend. It was really wild, really crazy, very unplanned, but just super funny. I have I have videos from the cold plunge and I have pictures of myself in the sauna. I posted some of them on my Instagram if you want to go look at the reel. It's all there. It's a good time. But I really allowed myself to just release. Like even in the cold plunge, my body was shaking out things. The first one was very emotional. The second one was just more like body shakes and just getting energy out. And everything all weekend was just this purge of energy, but really allowing myself to fill up because she led us through so many meditations, these ones that she likes to call the magic carpet, your magic carpet lifestyle. She would like guide us through this and I really allowed myself to dream bigger and to dream my life that I want to create. And I felt like it felt like it was so much closer as I was allowing myself to release what was no longer serving me. I was calling in all of these desires, all the things that I want that are attracting to me that I do desire to call into my life. And so I love doing things where we're purging and clearing and releasing and filling ourselves back up right after. Because once you clean your vessel of the old, you want to fill up with the new. And it was so beautifully done this weekend. It felt like it really got solidified in a deeper way. And one of the other really, really profound things that happened this weekend was on the last day. It was pretty much the last thing that happened. We were guided through a beautiful cacao ceremony, very intentional. It is teaching me to be more intentional with my daily morning cacao that I absolutely love. Is super heart opening. I can feel it. But just setting more intention and sending affirmations into it and speaking love and my desires and manifestations and everything that I'm calling into this cacao every morning because I'm already doing it. It's already a part of my life, just creating that more intention and slowing down. That was another thing about being intentional, is just slowing down and not rushing from one thing to another. That's what something like creating a morning routine is. That's what speaking your intentions into your cacao, blessing your food, just slowing down, being present, being grounded, and not feel like you are having to rush from one thing to another. Because that's been like the energy in my life lately. And I don't know what I'm rushing towards. There's nothing to rush to, but that's what I've been telling myself. I need to rush to this and that and this and that. And so that was a great way for me to be reminded about intentionality, was that cacao ceremony. And at the very end, she brought in this native elder, and his name was John Rolling Thunder. He had a longer name, but I don't remember it. And he was the most fascinating individual I think I've ever met. I could have probably listened to that guy talk all night. Like, I really didn't want him to leave. I'm like, "You can just keep talking, dude." And he talked about the origin of his people, which was super freaking interesting. Very, very cool. And it was like almost when he was talking, I was like in a trance listening to him. I mean, I heard it and I remember it, but it was just his energy was just so magnetizing, at least for me. And he is a medicine man, and but he's also had just like the most amazing life outside of that as well, and been recognized for so many creative endeavors that he's done. But one of the things that there was a lot of things that really solidified and was like showing me a lot of synchronicities of like, yes, I needed to be in that room. Yes, I needed to be there. I was meant to be there. There was just so many little things. But one of the things, this guy could have said lots of different words. But one of the things he said when he was describing humanity, describing our life here on earth, is he said something about multidimensional. I don't even know the sentence he said because I just heard that word and it was like alarm bells went off. And that's the word I've been using to describe my work. I lead something called the Breakfast Club for my teachers' breathwork community. And I call it multidimensional Mondays. And so that word for me like has a frequency. Like I really resonate with that. And he said something about like our world being multidimensional, and I like almost lost it. I was just like, "Oh my gosh, that's just so confirming that I'm supposed to be here and hear from you and all these things." And then he had a feather. I don't know, I'm sure it has a better name than a feather, but it was a black hawk feather with a deer horn, and then it was wrapped with, oh shoot, I forgot. Another animal that I can't forget. Like pieces of something else. Oh my gosh, I have been able to remember it up until this minute. Okay. Oh, I think buffalo. Buffalo, that's what it was. It was wrapped with like little buffalo pieces. I don't know if like a horn or something. But there was deer and a black hawk. And a couple days before I left for this trip, my dog and I were on a walk. I live in a suburban neighborhood. There's not a whole lot of wildlife in this area. But on our walk, there was a black hawk up on the phone lines. And it was very much interacting with us. Like was looking at us. My dog was like jumping at it. It then flew into the road and was like staring at us and like hopping around near us. My dog was like pulling towards it. Like it was a full on interaction, not just like it flew by. This was like going on for several minutes. It flies away. We do our loop. We're coming back around, and like 100 feet in front of me, I see a deer run by. And I'm like, what the fuck? We do not have deers here. Not in our neighborhood. I've never seen a deer here. And here I'm out with my dog by myself and see a deer run by, like right in front of us on the same side of the road. I was like, oh, great. Like all I'm thinking is my dog's going to try and attack this deer. Like something bad's going to happen. And I thought it went into the wash, and then all of a sudden it comes back onto the street. I'm like, oh shit. There's other people across the road. Like one has her headphones in. She's like totally checked out. I'm like dragging my dog across the street. Like, come on, dude, we have got to go. Like this deer is coming straight for us. So I drag him across the street and we just like stop because I couldn't get him to move. And I didn't know where this deer was going. And it runs past us right where we were standing, right where we had been before we crossed. And it gallops through all of the people's yards, their front yards, and just like runs past us. But it very much felt like intentionally interacting with us. It was really crazy. So in that same walk, it was a deer and a black hawk. This guy, John Rolling Thunder, I go up to Oregon days later, and he has a black hawk feather wrapped on a deer horn. And it was just the craziest thing. Like if you resonate with any kind of like spirit animals or just like spirit, following animal signs, that was the biggest one I have ever experienced. And it was just so much confirmation of me being there and meeting him and being in this space and being at this event. Not that I was questioning this at this point. There was just so many synchronicities already, but that just really wrapped it up for me. And I was very moved by him. It was an incredible experience. And he actually was so kind to go around the entire circle and give every single person a healing, like hands-on healing, and he used his feather and everything and gave people messages. He even went around to the camera guys. I mean, like if you were in the room, you're getting healing by this dude. It was so cool to watch, just watching him, hearing the messages from other people after hearing things that they had talked about that weekend and how resonant I knew they were for them. A lot of what he told me was for me to be more childlike, playful, which is where I am learning to bring more fun and playfulness into my life. I think I do take a lot of things very seriously, and he definitely pointed that out. And I talked to him afterwards and just thanking him for being there, for taking his time to, give everyone a very personal healing. And he tapped into my energy again and just said, really lean into Christmas, really lean into the holidays, try new recipes, like go to a cooking class. And it seemed so random at the time. I was like, okay, don't know why you're telling me this. He told me a lot of other things, but those were the ones that really stuck out and that I feel like I want to share. And I will say, since I've been back, I have not, well, let's go back. Previously, I really have leaned out of recipes, cooking a lot. Like that's what I usually do a lot of. And I've just been using excuses like time and building my business and being so involved in my business that, I don't have time to make dinner. I don't have time to make lunch. I don't have time to cook anymore. And I've just been like so scattered with food. And so I think that was really like a good reminder for me to like lean back into cooking, lean back into food and creating in somewhere like the kitchen. So since I've been back, I have been looking up new recipes on Pinterest and already creating new things, and it's been so fun. I'm actually about to go make a new recipe again tonight for dinner. And it was just like that small little thing that he said that has just ignited this new creative energy in my body that I can really bring into my life and into my body as I'm fueling it with better, nutritious food. So there was so much from him. I'm sure you can just feel the energy and the vibration of that experience as I'm talking, even without the words. It was something like I've never experienced before. And from what Megan said, like she literally, this is the other crazy thing. She met him and I think invited him to this 3 weeks before the actual event. And I won the giveaway 2 weeks before. So like he was already confirmed when I won that spot to go. So there was just something there that I felt like I really needed to be in his energy, meet him, receive what he had. And I will never forget it. I will never forget that experience. And I can't believe that, I was never considering going. I was using my ego, all these excuses as to why I didn't need to be in that room. And I had no idea what was even on the other side of this. And, I shared a lot about the weekend, but there's so many small little details that, I didn't even go into, and so many things happened, and it was just so much healing for me, so many experiences that I really needed and I didn't know I needed and I didn't know would show up in this weekend, in this experience. So this is just another reminder, if you're being called towards something, even if you have no idea why, there's always a reason. You don't have to know why. You don't have to know the details. There's always something there, and it's just for you to follow it. Sometimes the universe steps in like this and, gives you a giveaway spot. And, sometimes it's like up for you to figure it out. You just never know. But that's really why it's so important to listen to your intuition over your ego and not allow your ego to logic your way out of everything. And one of the other things, I mentioned at the very beginning, the message I really started with was creating more love and oneness in our world, because there's so much division and separation and bullying and fighting going on. And he actually spoke to that. It was crazy. He even said, don't listen to the media. Don't listen to the government. Don't listen to all the powers that be. They want us divided. They want us separated, and they want us fighting. And he said that out of nowhere multiple times, in fact. And that was just another confirmation for me to share what I've really been feeling, because that was the message I've been sharing that I feel like is super important to get out. But it was just another reminder of like, that's what I was using, that fear of divisiveness that was I felt like was going to happen if I went anywhere after, you know, said events. It was just more of, you know, don't let that dictate your life. Don't lean into that energy that they want you to be in. Don't lean into all the stories that they're putting on the media for both sides, for all sides. All of it is messed up. All of it's made up. This isn't talking about one or the other. It's all of it. And the more that you really surround yourself with people who have true love for themselves and for you, you're going to be able to create that energy more and more. And I have really taken the time this year to create people in my life and create groups and communities and put myself in the rooms of people that want to grow and want to grow with people. And there is no competition energy. There is that feeling of love and oneness. But I think sometimes we need that reminder because social media and the media in general and politics and the government can make it so divisive for people. And there are issues out there, but they're on both sides. It's not just one side. Both sides have messed up shit, and both sides have really great things that they're fighting for. But that's the problem. There's so much fighting going on. So that was my weekend. Flying back was also a crazy experience. I flew back with my new friend, Tiff. Love her. She's also a vibe, and she actually lives near me, which is so cool. We're definitely going to collaborate on some stuff coming soon. So if you're in the San Antonio, New Braunfels, Austin area, at some point, something will come about soon. And I'm super excited for that day because she's really inspiring me to create more in my local community. She does a lot for her community already. And she was just teaching me a lot about more that playful energy, that having fun energy, which was brought up by John Rolling Thunder the night before. And then as we were flying back, she, led us through like a really intentional, she like set an intention for us before we started our trek home and was just pointing out all these synchronicities and having fun. And I was like, man, this is what I need more of in my life. We were like laughing like children on the airplane, and we got off the plane and like people were staring at us like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, we're having fun. What the fuck is wrong with you? But people want to be like miserable and unhappy in their lives. So if they see anyone smiling or having fun, you're like the bane of their existence, apparently. But it was just fun to fly back like and stay in that energy of what we had cultivated all weekend with someone else from the retreat. And she's just herself. She's so authentic. She's so real and she's so fun. And it was so fun to be in her energy, flying back and creating that together. So she taught me a lot. And this is definitely a weekend, an experience I will never forget. And the best part is I get to stay connected with all these women. I get to continue to create life with them because I want to, because they've made such a difference in my life. And, I just love them so much. Which, as I'm saying this, oh my gosh, the one piece of the story that I cannot forget. I was like, am I forgetting anything I really want to say? Yes. One last thing. And I feel like this really just like sealed up the whole weekend. Sunday night, we were helping Megan pack everything up to bring it back to her house. She had tons of stuff. And we had eaten at the club, and then the country club, not like a club, just to be clear. And we were about to all get in our cars, and the moon was like peeking out of the clouds, and it was just so beautiful. And I don't even know who suggested it. There was like, I think there was 5 of us, 5 of us, all going back to her house for the night, all about to leave the next morning. The event was over. She had wrapped everything up. It was awesome, amazing, completely fantastic event. The 5 of us standing in the parking lot and look up at the moon and howl at the moon together, all 5 of us women. And in the moment, I was like, am I going to do this? Yeah, I'm going to do this. Do people think this is weird? Probably. But I was like, am I really into this? Yes. And it just felt so good. It felt so good to stand in a random parking lot and howl at the moon with 5 incredibly beautiful women and just close out the weekend. I know Megan said it was something she'll never forget, but I would certainly echo that. Like these are my people. Like these are the people that I've been wanting to find for years. And yes, they may live in all parts of the country, but you know what? That's fine. And I do have a new friend near me, which is amazing. But it doesn't matter where you live because there's so much of our modern world that allows us to be so connected with people that don't live right next door to us. Take advantage of that. I know I have, and it's been the biggest blessing. Sure, I would love to have more people like this right down my street. Absolutely. But am I going to let it hold me back or limit my friendships, my connections that I really feel resonant with? No way. Let's use our modern technology for good. AI can be used to, create this really creative, amazing artwork or experience, or it could use to be like taking over the world. So, you choose how you use the tools. Same thing with all other types of technology. Use all this technology to really cultivate these communities and these deep connections with people who are not right down your street. Sure, there's opportunities for your local community, but if I've learned anything, and I think this has really helped me being in IT previously because I love technology. I love utilizing technology to create communities, to create, just to create high vibrational places, things, and use it in a way that's really supportive. Yeah, sure, you could also be the person that's like staring at your gaming system all day long and be super disconnected from everybody, or you can use it to stay connected with the people that you've really, really created these deep relationships and friendships with. And I think that's what I really see us moving into. But it's all about the intention of the person using the tools. Because like I said, you can use it for the higher octave thing or the shadow side. It's all up to how you're using it, how you perceive it, and how you bring it into your life. So I think that was all the really juicy stories I wanted to tell. It was an incredible, amazing weekend, and I couldn't be more grateful for the experience. Everyone there, and especially Megan who hosted it, she did an incredible job. So I will definitely be back very soon with hopefully the dental cavitation surgery story because everyone needs to hear that. It's happening. It's probably going to get moved up a couple episodes because I just want to share about it so much. There's so much I have to say about it. I feel like it's so important for people to hear and nobody knows about it. And I think the fact that I went through it makes it so important for me to share. This is really what I'm here to do, is that what I'm realizing is all of my experiences. That's part of the reason why I'm on here on this podcast, sharing all these things, because my experiences have so many messages for other people in them. And for a while, they've just been sitting in my head or just having me experience them, which is great. That's not bad. But these stories, these experiences, these lessons need to be shared out as well. So this past weekend, I certainly have felt more glowing than ever before. In fact, actually, when I came out of the ice bath, the cold plunge, same thing. The very first one, Megan said that my eyes looked clearer, and I saw a little bit in the video. It felt that way too. So this is definitely all about how you continue to glow from the inside out. This is always the stories I'm bringing you. This is basically how I live my life. So this is the vibe as always. And next time, well, I'm not sure entirely what we're doing next time because I thought I was going to share a different story in this episode, but this one really wanted to come through right now while I'm still in the energy of the space. So as always, I would absolutely love if you left me a review on whatever podcast app you listen to your podcasts, and make sure you follow, you hit the little subscribe button, or make sure you get all of your notifications if you're watching on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. I would love to also hear from you. You can find me on Instagram at I am Lindsey Walker, or my business account at Soul Fam Wellness. If you want to leave a comment or a review, please do so. I would love to hear from you, and I cannot wait to see you in the next episode. Have a great day. Bye.